welcome back to Founder to Founder. My name is Arianna and I'm the founder of More Magazine. Today we are hanging out in the Pivot office in Fountain Square in Indianapolis, and I have Jen here with me.
Well, welcome. I'm Jenn Schimmelfennig, and I run Pivot, have for 17 years now.
That's amazing. So cool, and it's so wild because last time we connected, we were talking about how we met when I was like in college.
Yeah.
And putting together a marketing panel, and it's so cool to be sharing space with you today, knowing some of your team through different parts of the community and checking out the office because this is so cool. I love
Thank
the
you.
round window in front. I don't know what it is about round windows.
I know. I love that too. That's part of why we picked this space because it's like a round window that looks at the Bluebeard patio. So
love that.
yeah,
It's
we
like a
spend a
little
lot of time over there too.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I was at Calvin Fletcher's this morning, so
Nice.
a lot of good options. But
Yeah.
we are going to talk a little bit about what Pivot is up to, some of how you got started, and yeah, I'm so excited. You just dropped a few teasers right before we started talking, so my mind is a million places. But do you mind starting introducing yourself?
Sure. So I'm our lead brand strategist. Again, I'm Jen. Don't worry about the last name. It's very hard to pronounce and very long. I'm married into it. So yeah, my background, I'm like a writer. I love business, psychology. I went to school for graphic design actually at Notre Dame, and then got out of school and realized there were a lot of people who were a lot better designers than me. And that my passion was really more on the business side and being around creatives and around designers and writing, but not necessarily doing the design myself. So I built up a great team, and I, kind of love working with them every day. And
yeah, that's amazing. And I think there's something to be said about recognizing what you can allocate and where your strengths really lie, even after like going through different like things and studying. I feel like I studied marketing, but now I really enjoy like the marketing strategy side and like pulling back from like a higher view rather than like the actual implementation. But
me too.
It's interesting. I feel like as you go through your career and you learn that. And how did Pivot get started? You said 17 years ago. How have you seen it change in the time since you started it to now?
Oh my gosh. Well, some things haven't changed. Like I would say we're still very focused on strategy, research, design, writing, and doing kind of beautiful branding. Mm-hmm. We had a few detours in there. We got into digital marketing a little bit more for a time, a little bit more content marketing, those types of things. But that's really not where my passion is or what the team loves to do and is best at. So kind of made our way back to branding. We've been in Fountain Square and Fletcher Place for about 15 out of those 17 years.
That's awesome.
So, it's funny. Day to day, I feel like a lot changes. But then when I look over the full course, I'm like, yeah, actually, we've been pretty true to who we are and where we like to be for that entire time.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And I think having like those strong pillars and knowing what you do and what you are good at, again, kind of helps to keep like businesses on track. And like the projects change, the clients might change, but who you are and what you're doing stays true. And I think that's amazing.
Yes. And the why we do it, like research.
Dive into that.
I mean, like the consumer research piece, to me, it's about respect for the individual, and it always has been like that I don't want to make any assumptions about how someone feels about a brand or just in general how they feel or why they do what they do. I don't like to assume any of that. So it's important, and I've always kind of gently pushed my clients to make sure that they're not just assuming either.
Right.
So if they tell me, oh, my customer likes this or doesn't like this, I'll say, well, how do you know that? And do you mind if I ask them directly?
Yeah.
And it's always very revealing and good, and could be good or bad, but it's very revealing and very helpful to talk to people individually. So the why of our service offerings is important too.
Yeah, and I mean, I always loved marketing because I love the people aspect of it. I feel like it's the part of business that you get to interact with people and understand them and figure out like why they do what they do and different parts that influence them in that way. And so I think that is such a cool component of actually not on the end of it where they're buying it already and everything like that, but understanding like how that process starts.
Yes, I mean, ultimately what we do is manipulative. Frankly, like anyone in marketing, if you're really honest about what you're doing, you are, through beauty of design, through great copy, through intimate understanding of people, you are influencing their actions. and how they spend their money, or what they choose to donate to, all of those things, or how they what they prioritize. And that's a big responsibility,
It is.
I think. And I think if we're honest about we are manipulating people, then it forces us also to be really careful about what we choose to work for and who we choose to work for.
Yeah. I love that. And I have not ever heard someone in marketing say it so straightforward.
Maybe I shouldn't.
No, it's good, because you're right. It's like when you say it like that, it's like, oh, there are consequences to what we're doing and how we're influencing people. I feel like I always hear influence rather than manipulate, but it's true. And we are kind of guiding people down different roads. I remember when I first got my degree, I grew up in an Asian Mexican family, and a lot of my dad's side, it was engineers or doctors or nurses. And I was like, I am going to business school. And I remember one of my uncles was like, all right, good luck ever getting a job. And I was just like, whoa, I see your home. I know everything that you have. Like, I know that you were influenced by someone who has one of my jobs or the jobs I hope to have at some point. And like,
people like to think they're not influenced by branding and marketing. People will say, well, advertising has no effect on me, but it does.
It does.
Yeah.
It's wild, subliminal, all those things. But talking about your clients and how you engage with them, do you mind sharing a little bit about your clientele and who you work with?
Yeah, so it kind of runs the gamut, but we tend to work with industries that aren't super regulated.
Okay.
Meaning, like ones where we can be more creative, and it's okay. So the ones where you can't as much would be like finance, healthcare, legal. Sometimes they have certain requirements and things that they tighter restrictions on creativity, say. Which for good reason. But so we tend to like things like alcohol brands and art fairs. We work with architects and urban designers. So really it's kind of whoever needs a rebrand, and rebranding can come about for various reasons. Like maybe they're going through a merger, or they have new leadership, or they're trying to launch in a new market or a brand new thing. Like we work with Gang Gang.
Yeah, awesome.
And so we help them launch butter. And we're still working together 3 years later, and it's incredible. For those who don't know, butter is a Black art fair here in Indianapolis that just grows by leaps and bounds every year. They were featured in the New York Times last year. So that is a great partnership. They've kind of relied on us for the visual branding.
That's wild.
And it's super fun.
That is so cool. And what is it like working with alcohol brands? I mean, I see, this isn't alcohol, but like Liquid Death. I feel like they are always like at the top of my marketing newsletters for whatever they're doing right now. And so what is that like? That just sounds so fun. Like you said, having the freedom to be more creative. Like, what does it look like with your team and you and the client?
Part of what I love about alcohol brands is that their packaging is so important, and their visual brand is so important because they're in such a competitive space. It's part of what can help them stand out. And I really like working with the ones who have a very clear point of view. So Metazoa is one of the breweries we work with, and they have an incredible marketing director and owner. Lauren is their marketing director. She's great. Anyway, the reason we like working with them is that they give 5% to animals, and they have a tasting room that's, if you go in there, there's more dogs than people on most days.
And sometimes reptiles.
Yes, yeah, goats, whatever, chickens. And we just had a lot of fun with the visual brand, and it was something that even though they had a great name and they had a really great point of view, their visuals weren't up to the same level. So those are the kinds of things on the alcohol side we really like to do, where the beer's great, the point of view is great. Let's help bring the visuals up to that same level. So we did all those cute illustrations, like to go along with nap in a hammock is a sloth, and I think about kitten slumber party, and we have a lot of fun with them.
That is so cool. So I mean, looking ahead down the calendar too, you talked about butter. What has it been like working with art fairs? And I understand you don't do like the event planning, but you help with like the marketing of it. And you mentioned there was another event coming up as well in that same week.
Yeah. Rally, which is being put on by Elevate Ventures here in Indiana, and they're aiming for it to be the largest cross-sector innovation conference in the world. So in year one, that's a big goal. But
Yes.
over time, that is their goal, is for it to be kind of like a South by Southwest in the Midwest. So yeah, High Alpha did the original brand, like named it Rally. And then we're taking that and turning it into animation and kind of applications and signage and kind of on-site activations. So the experiential branding component, same thing we do for Butter now. Butter, we did all the branding. So from the word mark and the posters to our VIP invite boxes. And actually something really cool that we did for them was benches shaped like sticks of butter.
Yes.
And then they're all around town beforehand. Like we move them around so that people see it and get excited about it and wonder what the heck is that.
Yeah. They were super cool. And okay, my favorite was definitely the Indigo bus that had the full wrap.
Yes.
That was amazing.
It's lucky that a bus is shaped like a stick of butter anyway. So we were like, let's just turn it into that. So
yeah.
I'm glad you saw it.
Yeah, I was geeked because I was like, how many branding things can you put on a bus and it's the same shape? I was like, that was freaking genius. I was so geeked. That's awesome.
Thank you. And they're a great client, like because they're so creative.
Right.
Oh my gosh, they're like a dream.
That's awesome. That's so fun. And I mean, your team is obviously creating so many cool ideas and campaigns and just general awareness about brands that people should know about. What is your team like? How do you cultivate creativity within your team? I'd love to hear about that.
Well, creativity is a good word because everyone on the team is creative. So whether you're an account manager or, myself, like we're all creative in a different way. So you don't have to be a designer at Pivot to be a creative person. And it's encouraged and required. So a lot of our account managers have like art degrees, for example.
Okay, that's awesome.
Because we all contribute to like concepting, things like that.
I love that because I feel like that's not very common in different places. And I love how you intertwine like that core piece of who Pivot is into everyone who joins the team.
Well, thank you. And we do the same thing with research. So everyone on the team also participates in research for the respect reason I mentioned earlier and making sure we aren't doing things in a vacuum. And then other ways we cultivate the culture, we go on a retreat every year. Like we pick a different city and then explore that city. And also spend a little time just getting to know each other, drinking, like whatever. And so that's always a lot of fun. I think another way that we cultivate culture is just everybody is very reliable. Like we can all rely on each other. And that is a key thing because if in a small team like ours, if there's anybody who isn't delivering on time or pulling their weight or is kind of checked out, it's super obvious. So I think we don't have a lot of, the team doesn't have a lot of tolerance for that. They're like, oh, we're doing cool shit and we're doing our best work and bring it. So that's definitely a healthy, I think, thing about the team. We just really enjoy each other.
Yeah, that's amazing. How have you seen yourself grow as a leader since you started Pivot to
now? I think that I micromanage people less. No, I know I do. I delegate a lot more. And I see my role as going out and getting good stuff to work on because I feel a lot of responsibility for what I've sold as the Pivot experience and what it's like to work here. I feel a lot of responsibility to actually deliver on that and bring things in that people want to work on. So, and parlaying that into bigger opportunities and more opportunities in other markets. So like an example would be, we run the Highly Evolved campaign here in Indianapolis, which is through the city of Indianapolis Office of Sustainability to get people to switch to electric vehicles.
Cool.
So it's that influence thing we were talking about earlier. And really meeting people where they are and being educational about it and fun and entertaining. And that campaign has done really well. We've actually tripled the number, which was the goal. Bloomberg funded it and tripled the number of electric vehicles on the road in Indianapolis, which was the goal.
That's incredible.
And now it's in its second phase. And it's caught the attention of some folks nationally. So now we're pursuing some national campaigns of a similar ilk, like trying to get people to switch to EVs. And that's something I see as my responsibility to the team. Is like, you did this amazing work, and now I'm going to go let other markets know about it and see how we can engage. So we actually just started working with an EV advocacy group in Portland, for example.
That's amazing.
So so that
Okay,
the team can
so
travel and whatever,
yeah, okay. So talking about all the cool things that you were doing, how can our community keep up with you? How can they see all
Oh
the projects
man.
you're working on?
Well, our website's great and our Instagram.
What are
And
those
it's
handles?
pivotmarketing.com for both.
Awesome.
Well, pivot marketing for Instagram, obviously. I'm not that old.
Honestly, that'd be kind of ironically amazing if a
Yeah.
marketing agency did the .com in
Yeah.
that. Okay, I'm gonna hold that one for a rainy day.
Which may change soon because we are thinking about dropping the marketing because we are so focused on branding. So a little preview.
Very cool.
But yeah, so those are great ways to keep up with us. I also am a member of Indie Maven, like we both are.
Yes.
So seeing folks at Indie Maven, and I also like when people just reach out to me.
Awesome.
I love going out for coffee. I think that's how, well, other than the panel when you were in
Yes.
college, how we reconnected.
Yeah. And then followed up with breadsticks.
Yeah.
At Patterns launch party.
Yes.
So you know.
Yeah.
It's
So,
a circle.
Yeah. So I'm around. I'm
Yeah.
not like a big social butterfly, but I do try to go to things that are really like supportive of other women and the creative community, especially. And I just like when people reach out. Men, women, anybody creative,
Right.
like so.
No, I love that, and I feel like for me, I get a lot of inspiration from the way I connect with people, and so I feel like connecting is so important, especially as you're growing and looking for different leads and ways to work with people.
Yes.
How do you inspire yourself?
Ooh, that's a great question. I read a lot, just all kinds of things. I'm in 2 different book clubs, and we read very different kinds of books. And one is with these wonderful women who are all in their 60s, and they've like allowed me in as like the younger generation.
That's
and
kind of a brag.
it's great.
Yeah.
I love meeting with them. And then I have another group, and so reading is one way. I also love nature and hiking and like going to national parks and traveling.
Cool.
That's how I stay inspired, is changing my environment.
Yeah. I love that.
Always works.
Yeah, that's incredible. So